Hello, I'm Elizabeth Grace. I am the team leader of the Toronto Sexual Abuse team of Learners LLP.
And I'm Carly Moore, and I'm also a member of Learner's Sexual Assault Team. And we have Deepa Mattoo with us today, the Executive Director of the Barbra Schlifer Commemorative Clinic, to talk about some of the challenges that the clinic has faced over the past year and how your support of the clinic's 2021 Spirit of Schleifer campaign will provide survivors of sexual violence with continued access to the essential services and programs of the clinic.
Deepa, thank you very much for joining us today. I have long been aware of the really important work that the Barbra Schlifer Clinic does for women who've been abused, suffered sexual violence, and are trying to deal with the effects of those problems. But for those who don't know the Schleifer Clinic, can you give us an overview of the services and programs that the clinic provides?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to start by saying thank you and also convey my immense gratitude to learners and all of your team members for the support for all these years, as well as for this year's Spirit of Schleifer campaign. In terms of the clinic, what we do and what kind of services we provide. So clinic has been around in Toronto for 35 years at this point. And we started as an organization and a space for survivors of sexual violence 35 years back. But as we launched ourselves and started providing the services, our core services, although known for the legal work that we do, started there. We very early on, our founders understood that legal services are just part of the complex situations that clients face when they experience violence. And there are issues related to counseling and mental health needs that are needed. And there are needs around housing. So we added on the services related to counseling services. We use a lot of modalities within counseling, which is one-on-one counseling, group counseling, art-based counseling. And then we also have a housing program that goes with it. So within the legal core legal services, we provide independent legal advice for sexual assault as part of the MAD program. And we also provide family law and immigration law services. And a few years down the line, I think it was around in 2001 or even earlier than that, I would say around 98, 99. I'm sorry, I don't have the all years right in front of me. But at some point in those 3-4 years, we decided to launch interpretation services at the clinic, which is also our fee-for-service model now. So which is not only a service modality for the survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking, but it's also a service modality where we actually generate employment opportunity for the survivors and people with lived experiences. We have a suite of over 200 languages of interpretation that we can provide. And we have a team of people who manage that part of the organization. Along with these 3-pillar approach, the core services that I just shared with you, the clinic also has embarked on some special projects over the years. And one of those projects is Criminalization of Women Project, which works with women survivors, women identified survivors who have experienced coercive control and violence in their lives, but are criminalized themselves. So we provide representation and support to women through a roster of pro bono lawyers in that particular project. And we also recently, in last 4 years, have been working with a project called #AndMeToo, which works with precariously employed and precarious status survivors of sexual harassment in the workplace. There are some other developmental, very interesting projects around risk assessment, for example, that we have been working on. And there is a robust trauma-informed evaluation framework that the clinic has been working on diligently to create evidence-based work. Something that I'm really proud of in the last couple of years that we have developed is high need case management, which works with survivors of violence who have high needs around mental health supports. And this modality is basically to close that revolving door that sometimes survivors experience from being working with one service modality and then being sent to another one and then landing back with us. So we are trying to close that revolving door experience that survivors have in the system and provide them with the case manager who actually becomes their lead person to make sure that all the intersectional services that they need, they actually have one person who can walk with them. So it's like literally walking with the woman project, and I'm really proud of that. In recent couple of years, we have developed that.
Now, does the clinic serve only women and women identified people in Toronto or the Greater Toronto area, or does it serve people outside of Toronto?
So the clinic, because as you can see, as I was describing, what are the different kind of services that are available, we are funded in different ways as well within this buffet of services, as I call it. So in some programs, we are very Toronto-centric, but not so much in others. And a simple example that I can give you is that we have a family court support program where we have family court support workers who work within the Toronto courts to provide support to women, mostly women identified folks who are unrepresented in the court system. And sometimes they might have representation, but they might have other needs to have a court support worker work with them. Say, for example, a woman who doesn't speak English. She might need a court support worker then to make sure that she's understanding the process all along, not only when she's in the court, but outside the court as well. So that program is Toronto-centric. But our lawyers who are working with clients in immigration side of things are not necessarily focused so much on Toronto because it's federal jurisdiction. Most of the cases that happen in GTA or out would still be landing up with the officers in the area in Toronto or at the tribunal in Toronto. So depending on the situation, sometimes we are able to work with women outside Toronto or outside GTA, but some programs are specific to Toronto.
And Deepa, thanks for that helpful background. I know it's been a difficult past year, certainly challenging for everyone, but I'm sure particularly for our more vulnerable members in the community. Could you tell us a little bit about the impacts COVID-19 has had on the clinic's clients and the sort of hurdles that your community members have been having?
In terms of the impact that COVID-19 has had on our clients, I think we all are kind of are witnesses to that pandemic highlighted for us, right? So we saw that people who were marginalized felt more marginalized during pandemic. People who were experiencing discrimination, such as racialized communities, were experiencing more discrimination during pandemic. And same were the challenges with the people with precarious status and non-status. So I think our clients who are already marginalized obviously experienced very similar experience that we saw in the broader understanding of what was happening in our society. Some of the unique challenges for the survivors of violence was this option of stay at home and then you will be safe inherently had a flawed understanding of two things. One, that people have home, right? Because a lot of people don't have a home was something that was completely misunderstood with the notion of stay at home and you will be safe. And some people who, especially the people we work with, for them, home is the most dangerous place because their abuser is living at home with them. So their safety navigation is actually based off being at the workplace or being at the school, being at the universities, being outside. And that capacity was taken away during this time. And that was the scariest moment for us, right? That announcement right at the beginning of the COVID was the scariest announcement because we knew how hard it would be suddenly to say to a survivor that you should call me and speak to me as a counselor while your abuser might be in the other room or might be in the same room. Like that was the scariest point for us as a clinic. So we, since that time, we have worked very diligently to figure out different ways of working with the clients. We have pivoted to figure out, find access to resources, to technology for our clients. So we were one of the first places which launched online counseling programs right at the beginning of the COVID. We also got donations and support from firms like yours to actually have free phones and internet access available to survivors when they told us that they don't have a phone or they don't have a safe phone. So we did a lot of pivoting in terms of making ourselves available online. But one thing that we kind of had made a decision on right in the first week of that, that week of March, when the announcement from the WHO came about pandemic, that we will not close our doors, because we knew that even if we have one person coming to us every day, and that's the only way they can connect with us, it was worth keeping the door open, because one life is worth saving for us. So we kept the doors open right from the beginning. We created a high-risk team which came to the clinic, which kind of made sure that we were always here. And we brought a lot of changes to the space, made it pandemic safe in terms of plexiglasses and protocols and so on and so forth. But the risk and the increase of the risk that survivors faced during this time was the biggest hurdle. We were running into problems where we were running out of the tools in our toolbox when there was no shelter available, because now she needs to get a test done before shelter can admit her. So we forged a lot of relationships during that time, like Women's College Hospital, which is hospital, I think, one of the leading hospital which has been supporting a lot of women during this time, came forward and has supported a lot of our clients during this time, so that we could actually get them to safety and access. So yeah, the challenges were immense, and they continue to be. Like, it's the risk element that has gone really high.
Deepa, can you tell us about the spirit of Schleifer campaign? What inspired it, and what are its goals?
So Elizabeth, I think you know about our signature event that used to happen every year, which was called Annual Tribute. So last year, at the beginning of the COVID, we had the date set for the tribute, and we were getting ready for the event. And then we realized that we can't hold events anymore. And the tribute had been one of the leading fundraising event for the clinic for over 2 decades. So when we realized that we don't have the possibility of holding the event, we decided to actually have a campaign instead last year. So that was the first year that we had the Spirit of Schleifer campaign. And the paramount need for the campaign last year, and which is kind of still stays, is to create resources for these significant risks that the clients are facing, which means that we also need some significant resources to supplement our toolbox to support survivors. So fundraising committee, which is a committee that is supported by some of the community members and board members and staff at the clinic, when we met together earlier this year, we decided to bring back the campaign. And this year, the campaign builds on the experience of last year, which was just a pivoting, because we didn't have all the lead time to design a campaign. But this year, the campaign actually offers great opportunities for participation for the sponsors. It actually is going to have a lot of avenues to demonstrate support to the clinic, as well as a capacity to do personalized messaging for the clinic. So we are really thankful and excited about the campaign this year, and its main goal is to raise money to supplement the high need that is being presented during COVID for us.
And what sort of donation has the most impact in this sort of campaign?
The donations where we have people donating and then visibly talking about that donation. So, or the giving support and then visibly talking about the support. because in a digital format, when you have, so at the event, when you come and support, you actually are demonstrating your support because you're coming to the event. In the digital format, you don't have an event to come to. So basically it replicates that brick and mortar sense of connecting and speaking. So clearly a conversation like this, where we are able to actually talk more and share more. So those kind of contributions of making spaces has been most useful in terms of helping us, because what we also feel that what happens with these conversations and these contributions of collaboration is that we get to talk about the issue at core and talk about what is this money going to do, which is to keep the doors open, which is to provide those phones or those food cards, or making sure that someone's legal fee is getting paid for so that their application can be processed. All of those factors, when we can have an opportunity to showcase them, I think makes the longest impact.
So Deepa, if there were no limits on what you could choose, what 3 items would you say are most needed by women who have experienced sexual violence?
So the clinic has been one of the leading spaces talking about trauma-informed practice and trauma-informed training. So if I could have a wish list and I had to limit it to 3 items for the work that we do with survivors, I think it would be that the trauma-informed practice and trauma-informed trainings would be at the top for me, and not only for practitioners, but also for decision makers, for people who interact with survivors in health setting, education setting, and have that capacity to meet people where they are at. So that would be my first thing, that we need to have a culturally sensitive, trauma-informed experience for survivors. Followed by low barrier services, which means that having, as at the clinic, having a wraparound model available where survivors can choose and pick whether they want to first go through counseling and then think about their legal case, or whether they want to first think about their housing and legal case and then talk about their counseling. So that low barrier access to services and wraparound services would be my second one on that list. And the last one, I think, which I'm a broken record on that one, I talk about it all the time, that the spaces like Schleifer Clinic should have long-term sustainable funding being given. So for an organization which is in existence for 35 years, I feel like there needs to be a structural shift somewhere, and system shift where spaces need to be less precarious and more permanent. And I'm not saying just for the Schleifer Clinic, but the sector-wide, I think that shift needs to happen, because the spaces like our clinic or a sexual assault center, they play an important role in the care plan for survivors. They are inherent need of an experience of trauma when unfortunately people go through, and any one of us can go through that experience. So it cuts across all classes, education level, racial experiences. So it's really important to have these spaces be funded in a more sustainable way.
Deepa, thank you for speaking with us and sharing all the vital work that the clinic does to help survivors live free from violence and advocating for positive change.
I hope everyone will join us in supporting the 2021 Spirit of Schleifer campaign. Donations can be made at www.schleiferclinic.com/Spirit of Schleifer. Thanks, Deepa.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Elizabeth.